Story 1. Oh, my mother in the past made it known she was not a fan of mine. She is religious and would always say God gave you the perfect child for you. When she was no longer a fan of mine, she said she no longer believed God planned your children. Story 2. I have met many parents who love their children, but they do not want to be involved in actual parenting. They are not involved in their children's lives beyond providing shelter, food, and clothing. These parents are also not involved in their children's education. If a child is struggling, they blame the teachers. The parents do not put any effort on their part. Story 3. As a father of 3 adult children, there were times I didn't like one or another of them, but I always loved them. My eldest was cruel and mean during her senior year of high school. She hated me and wasn't very easy to be around. My youngest child thought he knew everything for about 6 months and lorded it over us at times. Again, not very likable at that point. Now they are genuinely likable people and we get along great. Not liking them for a while isn't unusual. I always loved them, but some days it was really hard to like them. Story 4. Mine certainly does not like me, but that is because I do not let her sweep her past neglect and abuse under the rug as if it never happened. The feeling is mutual, though. I feel it is silly to make any generalizations like this, as there are many nuances to these troubled relationships. Sometimes it is valid why a parent would not like their child, and likewise. Story 5. I searched for information, and there does not appear to be any polling on this topic. If we are discussing adults or older teenagers, I would not be surprised if the percentage were greater than 25%. For younger children, I would estimate less than 10%. This is just a gut feeling. My child, who is 12 years old, has severe mental health issues that have been difficult for me for years. I love her, but it is heartbreaking and sometimes infuriating to deal with her, which can occasionally lead to feelings of dislike. We are working on it with professionals. If you have a happy, well-adjusted child, be thankful. Story 6. I think you need to be more specific. Do you mean never liking them at all, not liking them during certain life stages such as the young teen years, or not liking them at age 3? This question is too broad. Most parents experience stages where they do not like their child because the child is going through a difficult period in their lives. It is rare for a parent to never like their child. A person who always dislikes their child probably has personal issues. Story 7. I have been told since age 3 that my parents never wanted me and that I was a burden to them. They loved my brothers, but I guess because I was born a girl, I was inherently a bad person. Story 8. I think most parents have specific moments where they struggle. Children are designed to push boundaries. Hormones are supposed to keep parental investment high through the most dependent years, which is fortunate for the species, as things would presumably be worse otherwise. Even so, a significant proportion of parents end up kicking out or disinheriting children who disappoint them because they are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or plus, are not more successful, have different political values, or for other reasons. Story 9. There are brief moments when my daughter annoys me greatly, mostly when she uses me as a human jungle gym or presses her feet so hard into me that she leaves bruises. She is almost 3. She can be a little difficult, but I adore her. Story 10. Cluster B personality disorders are significantly underdiagnosed. Many individuals with these disorders struggle to care for others, including their children. If their children do not act as extensions of themselves or live lives that reflect positively on them, they may essentially discard their children. This is a valuable resource on understanding why estranged parents behave the way they do. Story 11. My mom never really liked me. She kissed my brother's ass. Now that I have 2 children, I can honestly say I love them very much. That said, I don't understand how a parent can't love their child, but I think it's more common than you realize. However, children don't choose to be born, and if you decide to raise that child who didn't choose to be here, be a good parent to them. Try hard, fake it, whatever. Just don't make them feel unwanted because it can seriously affect them mentally. Trust me, I know. Story 12. Probably more likely than most would like to think. I really want an answer to the question, how common is it for them to admit to it? Story 13. I would say it is not uncommon. People are people, and just because someone has a child does not mean that child is going to become a person they like. Most parents love their children whether they like them or not. Parents don't talk about not particularly liking one of their children because there tends to be a societal expectation that you like your children, or at least pretend to like them. Also, children do not need to know when their parents don't like them. My father consistently told me how much he preferred my brother. I didn't really have a problem with the fact that he had a preference. I didn't particularly like him, but I felt like he didn't need to tell us and make it known to everyone. It did create problems between me and my brother because my brother felt that he should have more because my dad liked him more. Bottom line, I think it's pretty common that parents don't like children equally and that some parents don't like one of their children at all. Parents should not be expected to feel the same about every child. They should provide what is appropriate for their children and treat them equally. Doing so means that people don't often tell others that they do not like their children. Story 14. People often believe that only parents or only children can behave badly. However, it turns out that anyone can behave poorly. Story 15. When was the last time you bonded with someone 30 years younger than you? Now imagine doing it full-time and giving them the chance to take your time, energy, money, and trust, only for them to tell you they hate you for not giving even more time, energy, money, and trust. You love them, but they can be hard to like sometimes. Story 16. I remember my mother saying to me, "I don't like you, but I still love you," when I was about 8 or 9, as if that was an okay and normal thing to say. That has stuck with me and made me very self-conscious throughout my life. We are also not very close. Story 17. Sometimes children can be especially draining and difficult. I have a child who consistently pushes against expectations, which are the bare minimum, bullies his siblings, and is generally cantankerous. I love him deeply, but there are days when I do not like him very much. I hope our consistency will pay off as he grows older. But some people are just difficult. Story 18. I hope it is uncommon. However, considering that 1 in 6 children grow up in abuse here in Denmark, it is clearly not uncommon. Only someone who does not love their child can hurt them. Story 19. I believe every parent has moments where they wish for nothing more than to be child-free, and that is okay. That is normal. As long as you do not direct these thoughts toward your child but deal with them in a healthy way. Story 20. To be honest, I would not be surprised if 50% of the population does not like their own children. Just look at how common it is for people to abuse or neglect their own kids. That includes people who openly dislike their children. There are probably many more parents who regret becoming parents but still treat their kids decently out of obligation, not necessarily love. Story 21. I think it is more common than people admit, especially when children are young or teenagers, and it is generally temporary or phase-related. Less common, but still more prevalent than people acknowledge, is when individuals permanently dislike their children. I unfortunately grew up with this situation. My mother ensured I had the basics and was taken care of. Other family members cared for me more, but she made it clear she did not like me. My father outright refuses to have anything to do with me, so his feelings are obvious. It was unfortunate for me, but this issue arises more often than many people discuss. Story 22. More common than parents will admit. There is an entire subreddit full of them. I love my children but then proceed to describe how they cannot stand the children and wish they never had them. Those people have a strange idea of love. Story 23. I love my children more than anything. They have truly made me a better human being without a shadow of a doubt. They are interesting, thoughtful, and fun. Being their parent is the greatest privilege. I feel deeply sad when I hear about parents not liking their children. I hope that any children who are now adults and feel that way, or have been told as much, have found and created the love they truly deserve in their lives. Story 24. I am a child disliked by my mother, but it is mutual. I do not like her, and if I ever encountered her in person, I would be very turned off by her. Story 25. This is why my mom always taught me the difference between like and love. She would say, "We do not always have to like each other, but we should always love each other." Especially when I was a teenager, there were definitely times when my mom and I did not like each other. It is perfectly fine to not like your kids sometimes. It is totally normal. As long as you love them always and like them most of the time, you are still good. Story 26. Not liking can be very different from not loving. I know for a fact that both my sister and I could be unthinking, selfish people toward our parents when we were younger, and there were definite moments of dislike. Looking back at age 37, I do not blame them. Story 27. I really enjoy my children. I like spending time with them. My oldest is very funny. I could talk to them both all day long. I am shocked every time I am in a group of middle-aged adults at how many dislike their kids or being a parent. It is very sad. Story 28. No kids of my own. I'm in a Facebook group called I Regret Having Children. It's way more than you think. They post anonymously about why they regret it. Pretty much all the same story of losing themselves and that raising kids is difficult. Story 29. I'm like a mama bear, always protecting her cubs. My cubs are grown men in their 30s. One is married. There have been a few times I didn't like something they did or said, but it never made me stop liking or loving them. Story 30. Probably more common than some of them care to admit. It is enough to make someone want to be an antinatalist. Story 31. No idea. I cannot imagine not liking my children. They are challenging and require a lot of work. But I genuinely enjoy spending time with them. I love them and would do anything for them, but I also deeply appreciate them as the individuals they are. Story 32. My parents told me from day one that I was a mistake. I was blamed for everything that went wrong in their lives. I spent the first 17 years of my life apologizing for my own existence. I am 66 now, never married, no children, and I like it that way. Story 33. I am old enough now to have several friends with adult children they are not always very happy about. Do they still love their children? 100% yes. But recognizing their children as adults who make bad decisions and poor choices has been very hard, especially when they have to set firm boundaries, such as not allowing a child who struggles with addiction to stay with them. Story 34. I do not know how many people hate themselves and then have to grapple with seeing the things they cannot accept about themselves amplified in another human being. Story 35. My mother often says to me, I love you because you are my daughter, but I do not think we would be friends if you were not. Story 36. I would say ask my mother, but she passed away in 2013. To this day, I am sure she loved me, but did not really like me. If she were still alive, she absolutely would not like the person I have become. Story 37. My dad loved to tell me that his life's greatest regret was that he did not make my mom abort me. His reason was that he wanted a boy, not me. Story 38. Going out on a limb here, but I think about 1 in 10 children are nice to be around, and I would deeply regret being a parent to 9 out of every 10 I meet. Story 39. More often than not, I have never met a parent who did not constantly express that they think having children ruined them. Story 40. It is common for parents who do not engage much in parenting to experience behavioral issues with their children. However, it is less common among parents who spend significant time with their children and teach them manners, discipline, and conversational skills. Generally speaking, if your child exhibits difficult behavior, it reflects on the parenting approach. Story 41. I believe postpartum depression affects 20% of mothers and 10% of fathers. Not feeling attachment to your child or actively disliking them can be a symptom. Story 42. My parents seemed like they did not like me when I was an adolescent, but they soon grew fond of me again when I grew out of the hormonal stage and my frontal lobes developed. Story 43. My dad has 5 children. I am the exact middle child, the second daughter of 3. He has told me multiple times that he does not like me because I am too much like my birth mother, whom he dislikes. However, he seems to like and love all his other children. Story 44. If you took a poll, many parents would probably lie. However, I suspect that many of them do not like their children. Story 45. I think it is relatively rare to genuinely not like your child as a person, but there are enough children out there that even if it is uncommon, there is absolutely no shortage of disliked children. I can definitely tell which of my siblings my parents like more or less as adults, even though there is no favoritism. At a certain point, It is just obvious which personalities do not mesh as well and which relationships take more effort to make work. I believe there is a good chance these numbers will grow with the increase of allowing screens to raise children. Low-effort parenting is not new, but I think there will be a big difference between children raised by television and video games and children raised by the internet. Story 46. Depends on how you define common. If 10% of parents admit to disliking their children, does that make it common? It seems very possible, especially when adult children are included. If commonness is defined as being the norm more than 50%, then no, it is not common for parents to dislike their children. The majority of parents do not dislike their children. Story 47. My dad used to say that he did not like me. He would say, "I love you because I have to, but I do not like you." He also said that the opposite of love was indifference, and he should know. Story 48. My grandmother raised me for a while, and one time when I was acting out, she said, "I always love you, but right now, I don't like you very much." Story 49. A majority of people do not truly consider the reality of having children. It is generally assumed that you will one day have a child, so people rarely think beyond pregnancy and cute baby moments. Even if they do not actively reflect on it, many parents expect the bond with their child to be immediate. They think, sure, there will be challenges, but my child will turn out great, only to be confronted with reality. Their child may not like or want the same things. Their personality may be radically different from what was expected or hoped for. There can be clashing ideologies and values. I am sure these people love their children, but loving is not the same as liking. There are likely many people who, were they not related, would prefer to have nothing to do with each other. Story 50, very common. Because having children was, and still somewhat is, a norm and a basic expectation. It turns out a decent amount of people do not like children. I am glad that is being realized, and some of us, like me, are not having children for their sake. Story 51. Only time I loved my direct family was when everyone was busy with themselves. Mom was downstairs in the kitchen, Dad midway upstairs building, hammering and sawing, and my brother playing music in the attic while I was in the midst of it listening in my room. That was the only moment I loved my family I grew up in. Story 52. Sure, my mother did not like me much at all. When my brother got married, she said to my sister-in-law, "Now I have the daughter I always wanted." My sister-in-law replied, "You have a daughter." My mother responded, "I know what I said." Story 53. My mother did not like me and made it very clear. She told my sister that she was a terrible mother to me. Story 54. As someone who has been in the early childhood field for over a decade, it is much more common than you might think. Many people have children without realizing that the child will have a personality over which they may have no control. Story 55, more common, but you can't admit it because it is taboo. My mom has always hated me because I am a carbon copy of my dad and hold her to account, something she has been fleeing from her entire life. Also, there is the inevitable fact that you will have a child who is exactly like you. I loved my dad, but the fact of the matter is we were too similar, and we would fight intensely if we were together for more than 3 days. From his perspective, I understand it must be incredibly infuriating at times to deal with someone who handles things exactly like you do. You know the pitfalls of doing that, you try to warn them, and they tell you why you are wrong while wearing your exact facial expression. I got a glimpse of that with my little sister, and it really upset me. Story 56. It is not you they dislike. It is themselves. They do not like the parts of you that remind them of themselves. Story 57. In this thread, people are conflating like and love. They are definitely two separate emotions, and yes, love has two components. Love is caring for and caring about. You can love your children and still not like them. You still want the best for them, don't hurt them, feed them, clothe them, raise them correctly. But sometimes, as they grow older, they do things that make you feel you don't like them, while you still care for them and care about them. Sometimes you have to draw a line in the sand and say, I am not a punching bag. Treat me with respect. Yes, that goes both ways, as there are some bad parents. Story 58. Yes. I could tell even from a very young age that my mother never liked me very much. It became much more obvious to me as an adult. Story 59. Just popping in to say that I love my child so much, and I like him even more. I like him every day, and I love hanging out with him. He is 17 now, and every age has been my favorite. Story 60. Oh, they all like their children as an instinctive parent-child animal feeling. But only a few love their children as the individual human beings they are. Story 61. I mean, sometimes I do not particularly like them, but I love them fiercely. I am in the thick of toddlerhood, and they are lucky they are so cute. If you are asking about serious dislike, I do not know. I cannot imagine my life without my children. They are hilarious and very cool. Story 62. If you do not like your own children, that is your responsibility. You raised these children. It sounds like poor parenting. Story 63. Reddit is strange. In the real world where most people live, parents loving their children is very common, so much so that it is often taken for granted. Even asking this question would cause a typical person to raise their eyebrows. Not liking your children is considered abnormal and is therefore uncommon. Does it happen? Of course. There are billions of people on the planet. Story 64. It is common for children not to like their parents. Being related does not mean you are compatible in terms of personality. Story 65. Take my sister, for example. She passed away a few years ago, but her memory lingers. My parents loved her and are proud of the life she lived, but openly admit that she had a difficult personality. Story 66. My parents loved me, but there were probably many times when I was misbehaving, and they did not like me in those moments. Story 67. My mother initially disliked me. In her old age, she has matured significantly and accepts me for who I am, although we avoid discussing politics. Story 68. I may get temporarily upset at my child, but I love her more than anyone in the world, including myself. She can be difficult, but she is my very own difficult child. She brings much more joy than pain by far. Story 69. My mom does not like me. She loves me, I guess, but she does not call me or try to see me or anything like that. She has told me in the past that if she could have a do-over, she would not have children. That is probably partially due to my sister being mentally ill and still an issue for her at almost 40 years old. I try not to bother my mom with stuff and just generally go with the flow, but I still get involved. At this point, our relationship is relatively non-existent. Story 70. I think it also depends on how a parent approaches raising children. Do they understand that a child is their own person who will or should develop their own personalities, preferences, and views? Or do they just want their kids to become the exact kind of people the parents dreamed of them becoming? I have seen many cases of the latter, which causes dislike or resentment from the parent. They love us but do not like our personalities or engage with us as we become more uniquely ourselves. My own dad is one example. My brothers and I always talk about how he does not like us because he wanted traditional all-American kids, and we just were not that way. Neither of my brothers enjoyed sports despite my dad really pushing for football. I have always been a tomboy, and also now my political views are just night and day from his. We all traveled, studied abroad, chose to explore our options, so now we are 27 to 34, all unmarried, no house, but honestly, in my opinion, cool people. Meanwhile, my dad's brother, our uncle, has two sons, our cousins, whom my brothers and I cannot stand. Chauvinistic, ignorant, bullied all of us growing up. One is now a police officer, the other a football coach, both married with kids. It is like my dad's dream family. We know he wished we turned out more like them, which is ironic because they are bad people. That is my take, and since I have realized it with my own dad, I notice it in other parent-child relationships in my life. Story 71. Very common. It is why returning to the office is encouraged. They do not want to help raise the challenges they willingly contributed to, so they use the office to avoid that. Story 72. I could imagine it is more common than one might think. I, for one, am pretty sure my parents love me, but they do not like me as a person. Story 73. Very common. I could do no right in my father's eyes. even though he planned for me and chose to bring me into the world. Loving your children is a choice a parent should make every day. Story 74. Yes, my child fits all of those criteria. I am their fourth or fifth guardian, but the final one. Their biological mother was very unstable, with many of her own problems, both pre-existing and otherwise. As a result, all of her children were taken into custody. They all struggle in similar but slightly different ways, all related to abandonment, childhood trauma, and what I believe to be an inherited predisposition for mental health challenges. Adverse childhood experience scores are very high. Story 75. I think my mother genuinely does not like me, especially since I physically started growing. Maybe she will like me back when I start earning. Story 76. My birth mother told me that she should have aborted me instead of giving me up for adoption. She also told my sister that she should have left her in foster care rather than fight to get her back. She had maternal instincts and admitted that while she would give her life for us, she also said she is not a kid person. Some people just do not like their own children. Story 77. I can only give my own perspective as a mother of 3. I always love my children. They are wonderful people, and I always have them at the forefront of my mind. However, sometimes I really don't like the way they have acted. It doesn't stop me from loving them, but I can certainly feel that I don't like their behavior very much at certain moments. However, I am the adult and they are the children. Once things have calmed down, I try to have a rational discussion. That behavior was not okay. I understand this, but that is never okay. And so on. It's very tricky to explain. I wouldn't go so far as to say I dislike them, but I definitely dislike some of the circumstances we can end up in. We are in the pre-adolescent stage, though. This may change once the hormones take effect. I will still love them, but I remember how difficult I was to my own mother. She must have disliked me at times. Story 78. Once children grow up, they become individuals about whom you form opinions, regardless of your relationship. However, just because your parents do not like you does not mean they do not love you. Story 79. I have experienced both sides of this. My mother has serious issues, so I do not dwell on the fact that she dislikes me. On the other hand, my daughter is difficult to deal with. I love her, but I do not approve of her behavior. If we were not related, I would avoid contact with her. When children become adults, they are their own people and we cannot dictate how they should be. My mother was abusive and narcissistic, trying to control me, but I refused. My daughter has grown into a combative and unpleasant person to those around her. I try not to think too much about either of them. Story 80. This is so incredibly sad to me. I want to collectively give every single one of you a hug if you want it for dealing with this. I could never imagine hating my child. Story 81. Reading these comments, maybe it is more common than I thought. I came from a very loving home where my parents were open about liking and loving us. The same with my husband. Our children are young, but there are no other people I enjoy being around more. The only examples I am personally aware of are some of my adult friends whose parents misguidedly withhold affection in an effort to change their behavior. This is abusive and extremely painful. I do not know if it is a case of dislike, but that is certainly how it feels to my friends. All my friends adore their children. All my siblings like and love their children. But again, based on the comments, maybe I am just in a strange bubble. Story 82. My therapist encouraged me to get a kitten so I could love something that loved me back. My daughter does not have the ability to care about me, and if she thinks it will get her what she wants, there is no limit to how badly she will treat me. I love her, but she does not do things that would lead to her being liked. Story 83, fairly common, I would say. All families have difficult members. Sometimes it is your child. The thing is, most of the time the parents are difficult as well. Story 84, humans have emotions. I think most parents love their children but can dislike them at frustrating times. Story 85. Incredibly, children are often difficult to understand. Half the time they act unpredictably, and the other half they are unreasonable. Story 86. A lot more common than most people would like to believe or think. It does not always have to be the most egregious examples either. Sometimes it is very subtle, but even then you can tell the vibe. It always comes down to, wow, do you even actually like your kids? Story 87. My mom makes it very clear she loves my siblings and tolerates me. My siblings all think she is an okay mom and do not understand my complaints about her. I think her actions sometimes intend to isolate me. Story 88. Pretty common. Look for the phrase, I hope you grow up and have children just like you. Nobody who likes their children could say that unless they meant it as a compliment. Story 89. My dad just said that eventually I could take care of him one day. And that's it. I hate him. Story 90. My mother has never liked me since I stopped putting her first in my life, but then she despised me when I was doing that too. I keep being accused of treating her like a monster when she was demonstrably financially supportive. But the emotional side has really been difficult. When I was a kid, she would get very cross if she saw me talking to myself while doing imaginative play and kept telling me I would go mad like my paternal grandmother. I used to lie awake at night worrying about how I would know when this was happening. I was literally 6 or 7. I found out as an adult that my paternal grandmother had a traumatic brain injury from being kicked in the head by a horse as a teenager and she got no follow-up care. This is not hereditary. All those times she would tell me I was like my father or that I was not her child because I was so like my father. That bright smile she gave me when I was in my 20s as she told me it would be so nice to see less of me. The constant complaining when I did indeed cut visits down to once or twice a year. I realized she just likes complaining about me and would never be pleased. Weird, competitive behavior. She had a huge meltdown when my godmother came to visit me because she said I would be triumphant that godmother visited me rather than her. She befriended my paternal aunt after nearly 40 years of saying my father's family were all terrible and throwing tantrums if I ever tried to initiate contact. I reconnected with my father at age 18 and it's been a bumpy road. But we are okay now. She has tried to insinuate she knows more about the family dynamics than I do due to following my paternal aunt on social media. She got the rise from me that she was after, and we are currently not communicating. I tried to reach out on Mother's Day and she sent me a horrible letter afterwards. Many years ago, I was sitting in a train station with her screeching at me down the phone. At the end of the call, a stranger turned to me and said, I don't know if you're ready to hear this, but your mother shouldn't be speaking to you like that. I wasn't ready at the time, but I am now. She just doesn't like me and she never will. Story 91. My biological mother did not hate me but was not capable of parenting. She was addicted to methamphetamine when pregnant with me, diagnosed with but unmedicated for schizoaffective disorder, and had several other mental developmental disorders that left her mental age much younger than a typical mother's. She only had me because she was taken advantage of and her family manipulated her into keeping me. So she is not really a mother to me, but I know she did not hate me. She was just not able to love the way a mother should. I hold no animosity toward her. She was dealt a bad hand. My biological father really hates me and absolutely despises me. This is not the kind of tough love where he is hard on me because he cares. He truly hates me and everything about me. He tries to save face and has pretended to love me publicly, but his actions, especially in comparison to the children he loves, and what he said and did to me in private make it very clear where he stands. He and his wealthy, substance-abusing wife both feel the same way. It is mutual. All of us hate them. I believe it has been 3 years since any of his 5 children, from 2 marriages, have spoken to him in any way other than expressing anger and resentment, even during the holidays. Story 92. More common than people want to admit. Either because they come from a loving family and cannot even comprehend the idea of not liking a child, or because they themselves are not loved but cannot face the truth because it is too painful. Story 93. My mother once told me that she does not like the person my brother has become. She is his mother and loves him dearly, but she does not like him. I still do not understand what she meant by that. Story 94. A coworker said she loved her children, but she did not particularly like them from age 5 to 15. I guess a child's personality is outside a parent's control, so they may develop one that is annoying or something. Story 95. Extremely. We love you, but we do not like you right now. Often stated during teenage years as the young person individuates and tries to gain independence. Story 96. I like my children, but it is very common for parents to feel like they do not. When the child is having behavioral challenges or acting selfish, defiant, or aggressive. Feeling this way is expressed anonymously in social media parenting groups all the time. Story 97. My parents wanted to have children. They wanted to be parents very much. My mother was supposedly infertile, and after 15 years of marriage and wishing for children, they adopted a child. A few years later, I was born, so she was not actually infertile. They loved us children and made every effort to remind us how much they wanted us and how proud they were to be our parents. Even as an adult living far from home, my parents still send me letters and items to regularly remind me that I am loved, and I send them things sometimes too. I assumed that humans were programmed to love their children, until I got older and learned that is not always the case. In my experience, people who dislike their children fall into two categories. 1. They did not want to be a parent and ended up in that role for one reason or another. 2. Their child causes them grief, embarrassment, or hardship. Sometimes both situations occur together. Sometimes a child has developmental problems and requires a great deal of care. Sometimes a child has a personality disorder and the parent is genuinely scared of what the child might do. How common are these situations? It is hard to say because people are not often open about their feelings towards their own children. Also, feelings can change over time. Someone may like their child now and dislike their child in 10 years. Someone may have a difficult relationship with their child now but develop a healthy relationship after the child leaves home. Story 98. She has never come out and actually said it, but my mother definitely has a favorite and it is not me. My sister is very intelligent, excelled at school, college, and in her professional career, and made all the correct life choices. I, however, did not. I am not clever, did not do well at school, and have a poor job. I have made many bad choices in life, some of which have reflected badly on our family. This will always be a burden, and I will unfortunately always be the black sheep. Story 99. You can love children and know that you had a part in creating them, but children can be difficult. So yes, you can love them, but not always like them very much. Story 100. I have 3 loves. One I cherish, another I do not favor as much, and the third one is uncertain. Certain personalities work better together than others. Story 101. My mother and father loved us. I love my children. I think that is the most normal scenario. There have obviously been times when we did not see eye to eye, usually when they were testing boundaries in the teenage years, but we came out the other side. Now they are adults with children of their own, and they are more understanding. Story 102. It is extremely common for people who did not have children intentionally to blame their children for existing and making their lives difficult, even though they were responsible for not taking precautions. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.